All right, let's jump right in. Today, we are tackling a huge question in human geography. How does culture actually travel? We're going to trace the incredible journeys of language and religion across the globe and unpack this idea of cultural diffusion that really has shaped the world we live in. So, think about this for a second. Have you ever wondered why you hear Spanish all over South America, but English is the main language in North America? Or why Buddhism, a religion that started in India, is so common all across Asia? None of this happened by accident. There's a fascinating story behind it. And today, we're going to play detective and uncover the clues. So, where do we even begin our investigation? Well, our first major clue is the starting point of it all, something geographers have a great name for: cultural hearths. Okay, so what is a cultural hearth? It sounds kind of academic, but the idea is actually super simple. Just think of it as the heart of a culture. It's that one central place where a big idea, like a new language or a whole new belief system, is born. And from that heart, those ideas get pumped out to the rest of the world. That spreading process, that's what we call diffusion. And wow, just look at some of these ancient powerhouses in action. You've got Mesopotamia, which gave us some of the world's very first languages. Then there's the Indian subcontinent, the hearth for major religions like Hinduism and Buddhism. And of course, the Middle East, the birthplace of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. These were the sparks that literally lit cultural fires all around the globe. Okay, so we've got the starting points. But how does this stuff actually travel and change over time? For that, our next piece of evidence is what you can think of as the language family tree. It's how we organize the thousands and thousands of languages spoken today. So check this out. It's not just a big jumble of languages out there. There's a system, a real hierarchy. Way up at the top, you have the family. This is the ancient ancestor, like Indo-European. That massive family then splits off into branches, like the Romance languages. And from there, you get down to the nitty-gritty. Dialects, those regional flavors we all know and recognize. Okay, let's make this super clear with an example. Take a look at the Romance branch. These all grew out of Latin. So the word for table is mesa in both Spanish and Portuguese. You can totally see the family resemblance, right? But now compare that to the Germanic branch. The German word is Tisch, completely different. So even though they both come from the same ancient Indo-European family, a Spanish speaker and a German speaker can't understand each other's word for table because they're on totally different branches of the tree. And then you get down to dialects. Oh man, this is where it gets really fun and personal. An elevator in the United States is a lift in the UK. A creek in the American South might be pronounced crick up in the North. It's the same language, just with its own unique local signature. So the big takeaway here is that this whole hierarchy lets us trace a language's journey all the way back through time. All right, so we've got a handle on how language travels. But what about faith and religion? Well, it turns out not all religions spread in the same way. There are two totally different playbooks they can follow. And you can see the two strategies right here. On one side, you have universalizing religions. Their whole mission is to seek out new converts. They're designed to appeal to all kinds of people no matter where they're from. But on the other side, you've got ethnic religions, which are deeply tied to a very specific group of people and a specific place. And for the most part, they don't actively look for new members. So how did those universalizing faiths go completely global? Well, Christianity spread through missionaries and it followed the paths of trade and colonization. Islam expanded through a combination of conquest, trade, and its own missionary work. Buddhism piggybacked on trade routes with merchants, and Sikhism spread as its followers migrated to new parts of the world. Each one had a strategy to move way beyond its original home base. The ethnic religions, they're a whole different story. Just think about Hinduism, for example. It's historically intertwined with India's caste system, which is a really complex social structure that's completely embedded in that one specific place. You can't just pick that up and export it somewhere else. And that helps explain why the religion has stayed so concentrated in and around its hearth. Okay, so we've looked at the how for languages and religions, but how do we know all this? How can we actually trace these ancient paths today? Well, this is where geographers get to be detectives, following a trail of clues that have been left behind all over our modern world. And boom, this chart right here, it's kind of the smoking gun. It shows the powerful, undeniable result of all that movement over centuries. You see English at number 1, and that's not just because of colonial history. It's also because English became the global language of science, technology, and business, a really modern kind of diffusion that's still happening as we speak. Some of the best clues are hiding in plain sight, literally on our maps. The names of places, or what geographers call toponymies, can tell a really powerful story. For centuries, this massive city in India was known to the world as Bombay. But today, its official name is Mumbai. Now, that's not just a simple name change. It is a huge deal. It's a powerful act of what's called cultural reclamation. It's a way for a place to sort of shrug off its colonial past and reassert its own authentic identity. The map itself is telling us a story of power and change. And that brings us to our final section, where we put all the pieces of the puzzle together, because there was one massive historical force that, more than any other, drew the cultural map that we all live on today. It all kicked into high gear about 500 years ago. That's when the era of European colonialism began. And listen, this wasn't some slow, natural diffusion of ideas. This was a dramatic, often very forceful reshaping of the entire world's cultural landscape. A total game changer. And this is the result. This is the colonial legacy. Remember that very first question we asked? Why Spanish and Portuguese in South America but English up north? This is your answer. Romance languages were systematically spread all through Central and South America. Germanic languages, like English, came to dominate North America. This colonial diffusion didn't just add new layers. It permanently altered indigenous cultures and languages, creating the complex patterns we still see today. So there you have it. We've traced these incredible cultural journeys from the past right up to the present. But here's the thing. This story is far from over. I mean, with the internet and global travel, people, ideas, and languages are moving and mixing faster than ever before, which leaves us with one last huge question to think about. We've seen how history drew the map over the last 500 years. What do you think it's going to look like in the next 500?